One of the most frustrating things about being The Rookie fan is that the show absolutely loves tearing apart couples right when they finally feel safe. We've been through it with Chenford. That breakup hurt bad. So coming into season 8, seeing Tim and Lucy finally stable again felt like a reward for sticking it out. They're calm, grounded, happy, and honestly, they deserve that peace, which is exactly why episode 4 pulls the rug out from under us by putting Nolan and Bailey directly in the line of fire instead. Nolan and Bailey hit a wall. The episode opens quietly, but deceptively so. Nolan and Bailey meet up with Bailey's former captain, Russ, and he drops a bombshell. He's putting together a Pentagon think tank focused on improving battlefield and first responder medicine, and Bailey is the first person he wants, not as a side role, not as a consultant, a full-on relocation to Washington, D.C. At first, both Nolan and Bailey brush it off. Their life in L.A. works, they're married, they're settled. Why mess with that? But then Russ shows up again, this time alone with Bailey, and this is where the real conflict begins. He doesn't tell her she's the most qualified person in the room. He tells her she's the kind of thinker who won't stop until she's looked at a problem from every angle. And more importantly, he challenges the reason she's saying no. Not timing, not logistics, self-doubt. Bailey admits she doesn't think she's worthy of the position, and Russ shuts that down immediately. Turning down an opportunity because you think you're not good enough before anyone else can decide that? That's fear talking, and Bailey listens. Nolan faces reality, not optimism. Bailey asks Nolan to at least explore what moving to DC would mean for him. So Nolan does what Nolan always does. He seeks advice. Nyla makes it clear, almost immediately, DC policing is not glamorous. It's crowd control, politics, bureaucracy, and Nolan wouldn't be bringing his experience with him. Then Gray delivers the knockout blow. If Nolan transfers, he starts over. Completely. New academy. Bottom of the ladder. Lower salary. Higher cost of living, and this time he's doing it at nearly 50 years old. Gray even reminds him that the LAPD would be sad to lose him, which hits harder than it sounds. Nolan isn't just a cop anymore. He's part of a family at Mid-Wilshire. So when Nolan goes home and tells Bailey he doesn't think he can do it, it's not selfish. It's honest. Where does that leave us? This is where the episode really earns its ending. Bailey doesn't fight Nolan. She doesn't argue the numbers. She doesn't accuse him of holding her back. Instead, she admits something painful. When she said, "We're either both in or both out," that was before she truly wanted it. Now she does. And with that single realization, the entire foundation of their agreement collapses. Bailey still wants the job, Nolan still wants to stay. And the episode ends on one quiet, devastating question. Where does that leave us? No yelling. No ultimatums, just uncertainty. The case of the week mirrors the theme. What makes this episode stronger than it first appears is how the case reflects the same idea. Systems failing people. Nolan and Bailey witness a shooting, the murder of Fred Wilson, and what initially looks like a gang-related hit turns into something far more tragic. The two suspects, Ryder and Kingston, weren't just criminals. They were foster brothers. Raised together by a woman they called Mama, they were separated by a broken system. One pulled into white supremacist ideology after being returned to his biological family, the other swallowed by gang culture simply to survive prison. Fred didn't just hit Mama with his car, he destroyed the one stable thing these men had, and their revenge cost them everything. Ryder dies trying to escape. Kingston is murdered by his own gang for cooperating, killed by a kid barely younger than him, just trying to survive the same system. It's brutal, it's uncomfortable, and it feels painfully real. Wesley's DA run finally makes sense. That case becomes the emotional catalyst for another major storyline. Wesley is officially encouraged to run for district attorney, and for once, it doesn't feel random. Yes, his past with Elijah Stone makes him controversial, but it also makes him credible. Angela's concerns are valid. Public office brings danger, scrutiny, and exposure, especially for a family that's already been targeted before. But after seeing how badly the system failed Ryder and Kingston, Angela realizes something. Change doesn't happen from the sidelines. And the fact that she and Wesley talk it through together as equals is exactly why they work as a couple. They're stable, they communicate, they choose each other, which makes Nolan and Bailey's situation stand out even more. Final thoughts. Episode 4 isn't flashy, but it's heavy. It's about what happens when two people want different futures, and neither of them is wrong. Nolan and Bailey aren't exploding, they're drifting, and sometimes that's worse. Whether this leads to long distance, sacrifice, or an actual split remains to be seen. But for the first time in a long while, their relationship feels genuinely uncertain. And in a show that thrives on stability, that uncertainty might change everything.